Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched Gen V season 1. Let's talk about it. So Gen V was created by Craig Rosenberg, and it is of course the spin-off series to The Boys, the famous, or shall I say infamous, Amazon Prime satirical superhero show. Now Gen V takes place in the world of the Boys, but this time around we have a focus on these college students who attend Godolphin University, which is a university for supes. They have a superhero program as well as a media program. That seems to be all that they do at this university, is either allow you to become a superhero or a media mogul. But this university houses the next generation of superheroes, and so they put a lot of emphasis on your ranking as a hero, and your ranking as a hero is determined by a whole bunch of things, including your followers on social media. Because this is Vought that we're talking about, right? So everything that they do is superficial, it has an ulterior motive, like they cannot be trusted. And this university is run by the company, kind of adding to that mythology of Vought International being in charge of everything, especially everything to do with superheroes, which is funny because it kind of echoes Amazon. But yeah, you have that similar commentary with Godolphin University as well, being owned by Vought International, and so they have their motives in mind when it comes to how this university is run. Now the main character that gives us insight into this corner of the world of The Boys is Marie Monroe, who is portrayed by Jazz Sinclair. We'll talk about the characters a bit more in a second, but when we first meet her, she is much younger, and it's actually the day that she gets her first period, day that's supposed to be very eventful anyways, but in her case it's tragically so, because it turns out that her parents gave her compound V, and she ended up getting these superpowers that, you know, surround blood, manipulation of blood basically, and she ends up killing her parents on that very same day because she can't control her powers. She had no idea that she had any even, and she was just, you know, in such a state that things got out of hand, and so she kills her parents. Her younger sister witnesses it and, you know, disappears from her life, wants nothing to do with her, and so she's had that, you know, huge burden and trauma on her shoulders ever since. And also of course, because she no longer has parents, she's put into the system, except for supes the system is even worse, because it is in this Vought controlled facility with other unwanted supes. So she dreams of a day where she'll be able to get out of there and become the first black woman in the 7 and join Godolphin University. And that's what happens. She ends up becoming a student at the school, but it turns out that Godolphin University is not all that it seems. Surprise, surprise. So Marie ends up making friends with a few other supes at the university, including Emma, aka Little Cricket, who basically has Ant-Man's powers. She's able to get really, really small or really, really big, and in order to get small, she has to basically throw up all of the food that she has inside of her. So unfortunately, her superpowers kind of surround an eating disorder, which is like really problematic for her, and it's something that she, you know, discusses with her mom and her friends in the show. And then in order to get big, she has to eat a bunch of food, basically like binge eat. Although we do discover in the season finale that it's not just when she throws up that she's able to get small. She also gets small after having that argument with Sam, and so I think the idea is that she felt really small in that moment because of the things that he said, and so she physically shrunk without even knowing. We're also introduced to Andre, whose father was a famous superhero, and he's kind of living in his father's shadow. He seems to be able to manipulate metal. I'm not sure if it's just metal, but we see him manipulating a lot of metal on the show, so he can kind of metal bend and, you know, move objects, telekinesis basically. But then you also have Kate, who was Luke's long-term girlfriend. We'll talk about Luke in a second, but she was Luke's long-term girlfriend who was secretly running around with Andre, and she has the powers of like controlling people's minds. Oh, she's like the character from Umbrella Academy. Her name escapes me right now, but the I heard a rumor, that character. But yeah, she's like her basically. She also has a very tragic backstory of her own, and that's something that she connects to Marie over, because her backstory was, you know, she was, I think, camping or something with her family, including her parents and her younger brother. And her younger brother was annoying her, and so she told him to get lost. And this was before she realized the power that her words hold, and her brother literally got lost forever and they never found him. And so yeah, her parents never forgave her for that, and their relationship was destroyed forever. And so she sought comfort in the arms of Shetty, oh god, Indira Shetty, the dean of Godolphin University, who ended up being a whole different situation. But going back to Luke, who was Kate's boyfriend, he was the golden boy of Godolphin University, so much so that he was literally called Golden Boy. But he had these Superman-like powers. He was said to be the next gen Homelander, so that's kind of what they were grooming him to be, essentially, until everything went wrong because he went berserko and killed one of the head professors at the school, and then killed himself in the most spectacular way. And it turns out it was because of the mental anguish of knowing that his brother Sam was in the woods. And the woods is this facility that is being run under the school, and this seems to be where they were holding some kind of problematic, troublesome, or mentally ill soups, so that they could experiment on them, do these horrible things on these kids. And ultimately it was Shetty's plan to create this killer virus that would take down all superheroes, because she absolutely hated the soups, because it turns out that her husband and her daughter were on the plane that Homelander was supposed to save, and instead he destroyed everyone and everything in it. So that's the journey that we go on throughout this season. We meet these really interesting characters that have their own backstories, and they have their own baggage from having been given Compound V and how it changed their lives. They're trying to figure things out, trying to figure out the role that they can play, whether it be as a superhero or as a media personality, because that seems to be the only two paths that they have at their disposal. And in the background you have this ongoing debate about the position of superheroes as a class, because it seems that supes are getting tired of being treated as these kind of outcasts in society to some extent. Yes, the Seven is hailed as this like group of icons and gods, but it seems like wider society isn't quite as accepting of the supes. At least that's the vision, okay, that's the perspective and narrative that Vought International wants to push to the public. So you can see that this is definitely an issue in the world of the boys, you know, on top of everything that's going on in Godolphin University. I think they're seeding in this idea that there's definitely a disconnect between the supes and, you know, regular human beings that might come to a crescendo at some point in the near future, perhaps in the upcoming season 4 of The Boys itself. So now that we've gone through a quick outline of the events of season 1, I mean, this was across like 8 episodes, so I've obviously missed a lot, but just having gone through the summary, let's talk about my opinion. This was great. What a great, god damn, Amazon Prime. Now listen, mind you, I also just watched the first episode of Invincible season 2, so like my mood right now is here. My mood is, you can't even see, like I am on cloud 9. Amazon Prime is doing bits right now. Isn't that crazy? It's so crazy when you think about the shifts in like the superhero genre, especially in TV. Because in the early days, it was the CW, right? Like in the early days, it was the Arrowverse that was dominating. And then Marvel Netflix had a thing going on that drew people's eyes to there. But then you were supposed to be drawn to at least the MCU Disney Plus shows. Like we were supposed to be paying attention to what's going on in Disney Plus. And we were for a second there. It was all great until it wasn't. But now Amazon Prime has just come swooped in and just snatched the crown. And it's just like, I'm loving it. I'm having the time of my life. Now, mind you, even though a lot of us are huge fans of The Boys, and we know that Amazon wants to make this into a huge brand, they've had not only just the show itself, but they have so much like extra content that's set in this world. Like, they really have fun with this. Like, the creative team behind The Boys just kind of milk this, and they're really, really good at what they do. But, you know, having said that, Gen V is not the first spin-off of The Boys, because of course they also had that animated anthology series, The Boys Diabolical, which I believe came out last year, and I watched a few episodes of that, but I wasn't, you know, it wasn't my favorite, if I'm being honest. I don't think I finished the season overall. There were a few episodes that stood out and some were just like, eh. It did feel consistent to the world, to be fair, even if it was an animated medium, but it just did not hit the same. And so going into Gen V, I was a little bit skeptical because it's yet another spin-off. I didn't love the first one, and also the idea of it being a college drama, I was like, ugh, I don't know. By the way, I love the fact that it's college and not high school. I love the fact that it's college and not high school. And honestly, even after watching the first episode of the show, I still wasn't quite convinced. I actually had to watch the first episode twice to get fully into it. But when I did, like, it became such an amazing series for me to look forward to each and every week. Like, I've had a blast for the last 8 weeks, guys. I've been living for the last 8 weeks. Now, the first thing that I would say that the series does really, really well is giving us a brand new perspective to focus on in the world of The Boys, because, you know, with the main The Boys series, we have two, you know, majorly different viewpoints. One from these like entitled, sometimes pathetic, extremely villainous, extremely apathetic superhero characters that go against everything that we thought we knew about heroes from other franchises and from other mythology. And then on the flip side, you have the boys themselves. You have like Huey and Billy Butcher, Mother's Milk, and they are completely critical and skeptical of this, you know, myth that is the Seven and everything that Vought has built off of the back of Compound V. They despise it because it's ruined their lives in various different ways, and so they have that hatred and anger towards the Supes. But this time around with Gen V, you kind of have this sort of middle ground, because we're dealing with the next generation of Supes who have a lot of trauma, a lot of baggage that has come with this bloody Compound V that their parents injected into them. And mind you, this is the first generation that is cognizant of the fact that their parents gave them Compound V. That Compound V is a product from Vought that was made available for their parents to give to their children. Beforehand, the Supes, like Annie, believed that it was a gift from God that they got superpowers, you know, and that's how you see Annie, you know, on these like religious tours and everything. But that image and that myth was destroyed when it was revealed that everything special from these Supes came out of a bottle. If you know, you know. And so to follow these kids on their journey when they already know that they got their superpowers from Compound V, it gives us a different perspective to superheroes within this world. And these kids are also in the middle ground in terms of their place in society, because, you know, they don't have careers at Vought International yet. They're not in the Seven yet. They're trying to make their way in Godolphin University. At least they were when they thought it was a proper university. So that also gives us a different perspective into how the Seven even came to be in the first place. And we get, you know, several name drops here and there, and that kind of give us an image of, oh, okay, so this is what Queen Maeve had to do to get to the Seven. You get a further understanding of how the Seven was created and how the Vought machine works. And of course, as is typical in the world of The Boys, we also get some brilliant social commentary sprinkled throughout. I mean, what made this series so special and so popular was that it took a very different approach to superheroes. It kind of deconstructed the idea of a hero, spun it on its head, and just gave us these outrightly despicable characters. Like, just the worst of the worst. These heroes are just demons, okay, literal demons, literal garbage, and yet society still looks up to them because their image is protected by Vorts, you know, International, this huge conglomerate who sees these heroes as a marketable brand first and foremost. And so that gives forth to a lot of incredible commentary and metaphors that are just brilliant on The Boys, and that of course carries over to Gen V as well, this time around applying to a younger generation. And so we have other commentary sprinkled in there, like for instance the issue of like eating disorders for Emma, and also Marie and the trauma that she has because of the way that she discovered her powers. These are stories that we don't really touch on a lot in The Boys that we can delve into a bit more with Gen V. We also have that very cynical commentary as well that always surrounds Vought, like for instance the token black woman in the Seven, you know, the fact that they kind of play around with this idea of popping Marie in there for some extra diversity points, you know, just kind of touching on how a lot of companies work in the real world when it comes to issues of diversity and inclusion, but also touching on the fact that not all diversity is made equal in the eyes of these soulless conglomerates, because sure, it's fine to have the first black female in the Seven, but we don't want to have a gender fluid member of the Seven, as is the case for Jordan, even though Jordan is more qualified and is higher up in the rankings than Marie when we're first introduced to them. This is a really great multi-layered story that they told in this season. Great world building, great characters, which we'll talk about in a second. Just all around a great watch. Like, I can't believe they pulled it off. Well done. And I'm telling you, that Seth Rogen is such a brilliant producer, because let's not forget that Seth Rogen is a producer on this series, and his work in the superhero genre has been truly phenomenal. Like, he has had a brilliant run. First we had Preacher, and then we had The Boys, Invincible, and then he even had the amazing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So like, this guy is really 4 for 4. That's amazing. Like, he knows what he's doing when it comes to comic book adaptations, and like, bravo. Now, whilst I've sung the show's praises, if there was a tiny critique that I would mention when it comes to the story and the world building, it would probably be that, you know, I don't think the show works on its own, to be fair. I mean, it is a spin-off, so you would expect that, but I think even more than The Boys Diabolical, you would struggle to watch Gen V on its own without having seen the first 3 seasons of The Boys. But let me know if you watched Gen V without watching The Boys, and let me know what your experience of that was, because in my mind the viewing experience is definitely enhanced when you know the backstory of, you know, some of the characters that pop in and the references to Vought and everything. Like, I think you're missing out on quite a bit if you haven't watched The Boys. Another critique that I would mention is, I think the ending of the series felt a little bit rushed. I think we could have used at least like 1 extra episode to fully flesh out that ending so that it would feel a little bit more thought out, especially when it came to the good guys, the Guardians of the Godolkins motives. It kind of got a little bit muddled there as we see Kate kind of turn on Shetty like almost immediately, and then all of a sudden she's standing for mutant kind, or sorry, soup kind. Clearly there's a parallel to the X-Men there, but anywho, she stands with soup kind and she kills Shetty on the spot, and then she unleashes an army of the soups that were kept in the woods onto the campus, where they kill a bunch of regular humans, and it all just happens so fast. The turnover in her motives is just really rushed to me, and I feel like we could have used 1 extra episode just to kind of fully flesh that out so that it would feel a lot more, you know, well thought out. And similarly on the flip side, with the hero side, with Marie, Jordan and Andre and Emma, their motives are also a little bit cloudy, because it kind of comes down to what it ultimately comes down to in a lot of superhero projects, and that is keeping the status quo. That has been a critique that I have seen pop up more recently against the superhero genre, is that oftentimes these superheroes just stand for maintaining the status quo. So in the case of this story, the heroes are the ones who want to stop Kate from ridding the world of human beings, getting rid of all of the humans. And so that puts them in a position where they have to protect like the executives at Vought and like these horrible people who have done horrible things to them. And so in the end, it's like, okay, yeah, you've protected them, but ultimately what have you done to improve the situation? They essentially were just going to maintain the status quo. And like I said, that's a critique of a lot of heroes across different franchises, is that you have the bad guy thrown in there, mixing things up and trying to create, a mess, whether it be for the greater good or not. And then the hero is just supposed to kind of reset things back to the way that they were, regardless of the underlying issues that were present beforehand. They're not there to actually deal with these issues or come up with solutions. They're just there as a reset button. And yeah, I think that's a valid critique, and it was made even more obvious to me during the season finale of the show, because the heroes' motives were just so rushed and they had to make that decision in that living room right next to Shetty's dead body. Now, funnily enough, without giving away any spoilers for Invincible season 2 episode 1, this was also kind of touched on in that episode as well, with some of Mark's actions kind of rushing in there to be the hero and reset things regardless of what was actually going on, and perhaps regardless of the villain's intentions to actually help the world, help save the world. But he came in there punching first, asking questions later, and it was a big disaster. But anywho, okay, so unfortunately I don't think I'll be able to go into as much detail as I wanted to with this review because I'm losing my voice. I already filmed my Marvel video first before this, and now I barely have a voice, so I'm just going to point out a few things, a few highlights from the show that I wanted to chat with you guys about. First and foremost, Marie and Jordan. Marie and Jordan, I ship them so much, so heavily. Oh, I love it when I have a new ship. Don't you just love it when you have a new ship? I loved Marie and Jordan. I think they're great together. Oh my goodness. I hope we get more of them in the next season of the show because they are just golden together. They have great chemistry. The fact that Marie has great chemistry with both versions of Jordan is just mwah, magnifique. And Jordan is an icon. Like, they are such a brilliant character. And they actually went through a character arc this season, because at first you have this top performing student who unfortunately doesn't fall under the box, within the box that Vought wants for their ideal heroes. And so no matter what they do, no matter how talented they are, they're never going to be Vaught's top choice for the 7. But they've been, acting really selfishly. They've been really, really selfish in the past and acting, against the moral code for superheroes, at least theoretically. And so they actually go on that, journey of realization, especially when they go through Kate's memories. And so, yeah, they actually end up changing as a person, which is great to see. Pretty much everyone on the show has a sort of change in them, a sort of arc that they follow, which is really refreshing, because that seems to be something that a lot of shows have been forgetting lately, low-key. Anyway, so yeah, I can't wait to see more of Marie and Jordan. I had to say that before my voice went out. But next up, since we're on the topic of couples, I really didn't like Emma and Sam. I really didn't like Emma and Sam. I'm sorry if you're an Emma and Sam apologist, but I just, I felt a bit weird about it. The fact that Sam has been like locked up underground for years or something. How old is this kid? But he just like, I feel like such an old woman, but he just seems like so young, even if he's not physically young, but he seems like mentally young and immature, as shown by how easily he was radicalized, okay, at the end of the season. But yeah, like, he just doesn't seem quite mature enough to be in that relationship with Emma. and so it's just a bit weird. I just got like younger brother vibes from him, and not just because he's Luke's literal younger brother, but even to Emma, I just felt like he was more of like Emma's younger brother as opposed to romantic partner. So like, I wasn't a big fan of that. I think Sam, you should leave Sam alone to figure things out because he is very confused and very easily manipulated, clearly. And now at the end of the season, he's turned off his emotions. Speaking of the originals, that's a classic Vampire Diaries thing, but he's turned off his emotions thanks to Kate, and so now he's just going to be a killing machine with no empathy. So that's terrifying. Him and Kate have been hailed as heroes by Homelander. Ugh. We'll talk about that. So the whole world thinks that they're the good guys. We'll see how that pans out, especially considering Sam has literally no empathy whatsoever. He might be in a worse state than Homelander at this point, thanks to Kate. And speaking of Homelander, yes, he does make that appearance at the end of the season finale. And I genuinely did not see it coming, guys. Like, but also it makes so much sense. Like, I saw people talking about how Homelander was gonna make an appearance in the finale, so I was like, okay, where is this Homelander guy? And I thought maybe it'll be a cameo, like what's going on? The fact that he lands in Godolphin University, like his feet plant on the ground, and then he doesn't even say much. He just looks at Marie, and Marie is trying to explain like, sir, Mr. Homelander, sir, and he's just looking at her like, oh, so you like killing your own kind, huh? And all of a sudden, you blink and you realize that the tables have turned. The turn of tables. The turns of tables. And now Marie and the crew have been labelled as the evil soups. And all of a sudden, Kate and Sam are the good guys. Like, Homelander, you will pay for your crimes. Homelander, someone must make this man pay. When will the suffering end? When will the suffering in the boys' universe end? Hopefully in the future we will see Marie and the crew collaborate with the boys. Like, hopefully, I need to see Marie talking to Billy Butcher. Because this is crazy. Okay, but there are so many loose ends, okay, left at the end of Gen V. We also have the issue of Victoria Newman, okay, that's still a problem. She's out here popping heads left, right and centre. So there are still a lot of things that they can explore, which I think is great. So I'm just excited to see more, honestly. So those are the points I wanted to highlight before my voice completely gives out. I'm going to be giving Gen V an 8.5 out of 10. So that's it from me. Now that I told you guys my thought, oh god. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on Gen V, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this first season of this spin-off show down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys. Oh my god. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.